Thank
Yeah.
you. Can people see a slide that says COVID-19 shielding and linking? Excellent.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we can.
fab. So this will be a whistle-stop tour of some fun stuff that I've been doing in Leeds. So my name's Graham Hyde. I'm very lucky to have a role where it's jointly between Leeds City Council and NHS Leeds CCG. And basically, I am supporting the business intelligence data part of developing what's called local care partnerships in Leeds, which you might not have heard of, and I'm not going to go into them right now. But they are building on primary care networks that are a new thing in health across England. So I'm not going into that. But I was almost in the wrong place at the wrong time when COVID started and some data started flying about from Ministry of Housing, whatever they are, MHCLG.
Exactly.
So there was this shielded patient list that that was starting to flow to local authorities.
Running an open data saves lives, but yes, if it's quick.
And in Leeds, there right at the start of COVID-19, there was some work that was done centrally, I think by NHS Digital, and they identified about 18,000 people that needed to be needed a letter to say that they needed to shield. About a month later, that list increased massively to about 45,000 people in Leeds who were identified that needed to shield. And that was done from a variety of sources. I won't go into that either. But there were terms like clinically extremely vulnerable, and that's a bit of a definition there of how they were found. So again, I'm not going into that. But there are a load of people in Leeds that we needed to kind of virtually hug, if you like, and offer them support for various reasons. So one of the things in a meeting that I was in suddenly dawned on me, we've got all these people, how can we be assured that each of those 45,000 people that has been identified is receiving the support that they deserve or they need during this COVID-19 crisis? How can we as a city assure ourselves that we're doing the best that we possibly can for all of those people, and essentially that no one is falling between the cracks? We certainly don't. We certainly want to offer a service to everybody wherever they live. So in that shielded patient list, we were getting the NHS number, so possibly job done. So that NHS number was good. It was the data was pretty well. It was accurate. So that actually meant that we could then link that patient list to other health data sets, such as which GP practice they were registered at, and various demographics data from primary care that is captured in Leeds. So we were able to link to ethnicity, which is a pretty hot topic around COVID, and also how these people preferred to be communicated to. So that possibly was job done. And then, as ever, somebody wanted a dashboard, and I sort of pushed back on it. But actually, we've been doing a dashboard. It's now stopped, thankfully. But it was just a position of where we were in terms of the total number of people who were being asked to shield, broken down by various kind of age bands. And actually, there was another job to do. So if you had received a letter saying you should be shielding, on that letter, there was also an option to proactively register yourself on a telephone line or on a website to say, yes, I can confirm that I've received a letter, and actually I could do with a bit of extra support. So we were kind of monitoring performance, which is a bad thing in this sort of scenario, but the people wanted it. So kind of by slicing and dicing the data, we could then just do a rough percentage of those people who had put their hand up and proactively registered that they needed some support against the total number of people in those age bands or whatever category who had been asked to shield. So we've done some slicing and dicing of ages. Ethnicity, as I say, is very, very hot topic. And really, it just hopefully promotes the question: Is this the best that we can do for these people? Is there anything else that we need to do for these people? So there's other stuff that I thought that we could also link to as well, and really try to understand if these people were already in touch with other statutory services across the city. So data sets held by the local authority, so Leeds City Council, does not always contain the NHS number. So that was a bit of a stopper, because linking, some of you might have linked on addresses and postcodes, and to be fair, that's an absolute nightmare. Housing data doesn't contain NHS numbers, so we don't know if somebody is a council tenant or if they live in sheltered accommodation. Council tax information doesn't have an NHS number, so we couldn't find out whether or not a person living at a particular property lived alone, for example. As a proxy for living alone was the single person discount on council tax. Adult social care at Leeds City Council does hold the NHS number, so that was a bonus. And being a geographer, I don't mind admitting that where stuff happens is important, I think. So some bloke called Hancock has many failings, but he has seemed to have nailed this definition. So there is a thing that we could use to link data sets, and that is called a unique property reference number. And Matt Hancock says that. And on this particular thing, I agree with him. I don't agree with him on a lot of things. And the UPRN and also the USRN, which is a street reference number, and those associated X and Y coordinates are now becoming more open just recently. So that's all good and positive. So just as a slight geeky example, if we were to match stuff based on addresses and postcodes, we know the X and Y coordinates of a postcode, but it's the centroid of a postcode. As we all know, a postcode is about 13 to 15 addresses. But actually, if we're using a UPRN X and Y coordinate, that is the X and Y coordinate of every single property. So we're getting much better accuracy. So I think where you live has a direct impact on your health and well-being and your health inequalities. As I said, postcodes sometimes have spaces, don't have spaces, have zeros, have O's. Matching addresses is a nightmare. The UPRN is a really simple 12-digit number. It never changes, so it's far easier to link across data sets. And there's also published open data linking UPRNs to higher levels of geography from the ONS. So pretty key early doors with this shielding stuff. I had a bit of an idea. So again, we've got a list of 45,000 people. Can we kind of produce some more insight about those people? We can link, because we know where those properties are with the UPRN. We know which lower level super output area they fall in. We know which LSOA is in what deprivation decile. So this is a chart that shows those people who have been advised to shield in Leeds by IMD decile. And I reckon we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't have linked those 45,000 records to the UPRN and then the LSOA. And to me, that's pretty interesting, that by far and away, the most people who've been advised to shield in Leeds are in IMD decile 1, which is the most deprived areas. We might have had a bit of a hunch about that, but we've got some data to back that up. And we can then basically flex our offer and our support and focus, I suppose, to those people. Health inequalities is a real kind of buzzwords at the moment for all the right reasons. In Leeds and across England, we've got things called primary care networks, and this is a beautiful map of those primary care networks. And again, we're able to slice and dice and present that data of people who've been advised to shield because we know where they are. And also back to our local care partnerships, we're able to do that. In Leeds, some of you may know who live in Leeds, the city has come together to provide 33 ward-based hubs for the distribution of help and support. So again, we know the numbers of people who are being advised to shield by ward, which potentially is predicting the demand on those 33 ward-based hubs for all sorts of things, food distribution and other stuff. We're also able to identify 0 to 18-year-olds and again slice that data into the school clusters. Something else that we've got in Leeds, which is pretty, I reckon, unique. So Leeds City Council commissions a number of membership organisations called neighbourhood networks to support its older population. And neighbourhood networks have a defined patch, if you like. So again, they have some element of geography. So these organisations were able to anonymously share their member database addresses into the city council. So we're not interested in the names and addresses, the names and the dates of birth and all that sort of stuff about these members. We're just interested in the address. We then attached a UPRN to all those addresses, and then we're able to link that information to say at that household somebody has received a letter to say that they have been asked to shield, and somebody at that household has also said we need some support with carrying food across the threshold, for example. So again, providing support and extra insight into our neighbourhood networks. We know who their members are, we know where they live, we can link other stuff to them. So just as before anyone asks, it's absolutely not appropriate for a volunteer. So these are volunteer organisations. It's not appropriate for a volunteer to contact someone directly to inform them that they're on a list for shielding for medical reasons. That was handled by the GPs. This is really about support, kind of food and social vulnerability support. A nice byproduct of this work is that we've been able to provide a bit of an address cleansing service back to the neighbourhoods and also provide them with UPRNs for all of their addresses, which some of them have said they will update their databases with. So any future data sharing then becomes a lot easier. We're also able to identify those properties within the catchment areas of neighbourhood networks, but not necessarily registered with a neighbourhood network, who also could kind of the other people that we don't necessarily know about. We can then send them targeted letters, targeted information about the support that is available in their area, because we know where they live. This UPRN linkage was also extended to an organisation called Carers Leeds. So in Leeds, if you are a carer, you can register with this organisation. It's not 100% coverage of carers, it's just the ones that we know about. So again, a similar process, able to anonymously match addresses with a UPRN and provide that information back to neighbourhood networks and also other organisations to say somebody within this household, so again, not identifying people, but somebody within that household has been identified as a carer. So again, just providing more information back to people. We've also then been able to, because we know which GP practice these people are registered at, we can then provide data back to the GP practices about the people registered with their practice. And as I said, providing geographically tailored letters to the people on that list with local information based on where they live. So shielding has been paused as of the 1st of August, but there is still some support that is available. You know, they're not getting their deliveries of food parcels anymore, but there is support available. So just pointing people always in the right direction around local support based on where people live. So hopefully what I've demonstrated here is we're doing stuff with open data. LSOA boundaries are open, the UPRN is becoming more open. and certainly using geography as a geographer to drive decisions and drive support, and also to further understand health inequalities and to try and narrow the gap in terms of health inequalities. So that's all I've got to say.